Well, glad we're here again. It's good to have you back, Dad.
Well, thank you.
For our viewers, I'm Stephen Furlow. This is my wife, Nicole, my dad, Daryl Furlow. And we're glad you could join us again on this Sunday evening. I kind of want to start out with something. We talked about it the other day, but I was online and saw an instance where a waiter received a tip on a credit card receipt. And it was a handwritten tip from a preacher, where he had crossed out the added gratuity. I guess that the party that this preacher was sitting with was a large party. There was 20 people, I think. And so with large parties like that, gratuity is generally added to the ticket. And this preacher had marked out the gratuity and said, I give 10% to God. Why should you get 18%? Mm-hmm. And wrote a big emphatic 0. And I work in the restaurant industry, and that's extremely insulting. When you serve somebody, that to me is worth something. I don't know if anybody, I mean, most people, when you're young, you've probably waited tables, you've done some sort of restaurant work, I'm sure, no matter how short or how long of a time period, but you don't get paid very much. You make your money off of tips. And there was a big to-do made about this preacher. I don't know, that's just an arrogant statement. 10% really isn't that big of an amount, and he claims to be giving that to God, and he did not want to pay the gratuity on this ticket. I guess he didn't think that his server deserved this tip. And I guess what I saw in that is that if you can't give to one another, if I can't give to you, if I can't give to a complete stranger on the street or someone in the restaurant that I work, if I can't give to them, how can I say that I can give to God? I mean, how do we physically give anything to God? Right. How do we personally say, here is 10% or 20% or 30 or any amount? How do we physically give it to Him? And to me, that just shows where we need a direction that we don't need to go, which kind of brings me to the topic that I wanted to discuss, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before, is what is it going to take to get people to move forward, to realize that kind of mindset, the kind of mindset that says, I don't want to give to you because I give to God. You're not worthy of my gift. How do we get past that? How do we move forward? I mean, surely anybody would look at that and say, how selfish, how self-righteous that is. And coming from one who's supposed to be a leader, I don't know. It was slightly disturbing to me that he could claim to be this big leader but didn't want to leave a tip. I mean, if you can't show your heart by what you give, then you're not really showing me anything. Not showing me that you can lead me anywhere. But especially to someone who relies on that. Most servers make $2.13 an hour, $2.13 an hour. That's nothing. That doesn't get you anywhere. But this guy's 20% was only like $6. And to me, that's really even not that great of a tip, especially for a large amount of 20 people. I mean, right. That's... And I don't know, it was just terribly insulting to me. But
I also heard that she lost her job. And
the server did?
Yeah, because she took a picture of the receipt and posted it to this site. And, the company found out about it and they terminated it. So, and now there's this big petition, for her to get her job back and stuff like that. But
I guess in a sense, I can understand that concept from a business standpoint. It's kind of a bad thing to bash your customers, I guess.
And his name was on the picture. It was, he signed the receipt. So.
Right. So, I mean, I guess I understand that. It could have been handled a different way, but it was just disappointing that this is a so-called man of God, I guess, quote unquote, preacher. I think he deserved every bit of publicity he got for that. But um, I don't know. It's just sad. It's very sad that that is the mindset of somebody who is supposed to be representing God, is that I'm not going to give to you. You don't deserve my gift. You're not worthy of my gift. It's sad. It's a mindset that I'm very thankful we're moving away from. The mindset that says I'm better than you because I do this or because I do that. It's all, I don't know. It's kind of sickening, kind of gross.
Yeah.
But we had talked about a little bit before, or today, a little earlier today, about just moving forward and where we are today. So I just kind of want to get the conversation started with that. What is it going to take for us to leave those top mindsets behind?
Well, it's it's a lot of change. I think mainly because of what has been taught, what people have come to expect, what they believe about God, about what is, what isn't His Word. But it seems like it all boils down to attitude, because I look at it like this. I'll just express my attitude. For one thing, I'm married to a woman that used to be a waitress. And when I married her and we first started going out to eat, maybe even before we actually got married, we may have done it a time or two. But when it come to the tip, she was very pushy about that. I mean, that I needed to leave a certain amount. And, at that time, I thought tipping was just giving what you felt like. If they did a good job, you leave a tip. If they didn't, you don't. It wasn't really something that was a part of their wages as far as I was concerned. Once I realized, well, that's how they make their money, then I became more diligent to do that. But, we've shared, and I like to continue to be open about where we've been and as opposed to where we are now. At that time, we had the very legalistic mindset. We were caught up in religion, and I was probably, in all honesty, closer to that preacher, having his kind of mindset, than the right mindset. I'll just put it in those terms, because to me, yes, it is the way. Just sticking with the idea of a waiter or waitress being tipped, it is the way they make their money. They're dependent on that. Otherwise, they can't feed their families. I mean, so the responsible thing to do would be to, if you're going to go out to eat and you've only got $5 and the meal costs $5, then go to Burger King, somewhere where, there's not someone depending on that little bit of extra to make their living. So that's what I would do. But it's more than that. To me, it's an attitude of caring about others and being willing to share, even possibly going above a little bit, especially if you've got someone who's really doing a good job. Some people, are doing that job because they can't find something better. There are others who do that because they're just good at it. And they deserve to be treated that way. But it's not, it shouldn't be a thing, well, I've got to do this, how much, let's see, what's percentage of, it should be a thing of just, I want to do this because they're doing a good job of what they're doing. And so, I don't have to, I could walk out, but it's something I should want to do. And I guess that's my point. There should be something in me that desires to do that. And that's the way I look at giving anything, whether it is monies, which is extremely important, or if it's whatever we have, whatever our gift is, whatever ability we have. There should be a willingness to share that with others in order to benefit. As a matter of fact, that's really the basis of my business. I'm a paint contractor, and you even worked for me a while, and maybe you can testify to this, but the number one goal was to do a service for people and do a good job, do something that will benefit them. If I'm painting the outside of their house, I want to do the best job in order for it to last. I don't want them calling me up or anyone else up, and if in a year's time they're having to have it repainted, then they'll probably call someone else because it should last longer than that. But
Well, we'll get a few comments here from viewers that I want to address. I don't mean to interrupt,
sure,
but
go ahead.
we don't. I want to make sure that we address these. Well, it's a very long comment, but makes a good point. They said that they thought it was a complicated issue, and it was a horrible, stupid statement from the preacher, but unprofessional of the waitress or waiter to publicize it.
True.
But on the third hand, again, another stupid, selfish, uncaring move that the preacher, or to have spoken to the manager and gotten the person fired. I agree. I mean, the whole situation sounds like it wasn't handled properly, but I guess my point in bringing it up was just to show where religion is, what kind of mindset it has. I understand that I would have been upset if one of the servers that worked for me had publicized something about one of my customers. I mean, we survive as a business off of our customers, whether they leave a good tip or not. I mean, we have to have those customers. They pay our bills. So, but did I think that this deserved to be brought to light? I do. Maybe without a preacher's name, without a location of where this came from, but just as a general idea for the public to understand, that these servers do rely on their tips. And for a preacher to have that sort of attitude, I don't agree with publicizing names and, bringing that restaurant under heat. But then to turn around and have a server fired for that, it's just a very complicated situation. We have another comment that says, preacher was being stupid and arrogant, thought of himself better than the waiter, sickening and gross. I agree. That's kind of the point I was getting at, is that, as a servant, I've been a public servant. I guess you could call me that. Not, I serve the public. I'll put it that way. It can be a very humbling position, because you never know what a customer is going to ask of you or demand from you or how they're going to treat you. And you have to turn around and smile and be kind, and no matter what it is that they're asking you to do. And to me, I think anybody with the type of attitude that this preacher had should have to be in that position and see what it's like to be a servant, and not have to sit up on a high horse and have people serving you all the time.
Well, even, just a few days ago when we were talking about this, you were saying that even in your own restaurant that, pastors will come in and instead of a tip, they'll leave like a little track that, tells people that God loves them and gives them some scriptures, and that's their tip. And so that happened, that type of thing obviously happens quite often. But I think you made a good point about, what does giving to God mean anyways? Used to, we had just a very structured idea of what that meant. And that's the idea that, the pastor obviously has too. But I think my ideas on giving to God, if you want to call it that, probably changed, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago when we had our oldest son, Micah. You weren't able to work. I mean, I guess you could have, but it would have left me 3 hours away in a hospital by myself. And, we knew that I could have had him at any point. And so it was important for you to stay with me and hang out, because if something happened, you would be there, you would be close. And, just random monies would come in. People were giving, people heard about our story and would send checks, leave money in our mailbox. And this happened for 2 months. We were down there for 2 months. And I just remember being so emotional about it and so...
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, yes.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed for months, even after we came home, just knowing that people gave to us, no questions asked. They weren't asking, well, are you paying your house note with this, or is this covering your electricity? I mean, they were just giving, and I felt, like you said, overwhelmed about it. And to me, that's when it changed in my mind what giving to God really meant.
And I have to say, since we're doing a comparison, most of the people that gave us money were not religious.
Right. Some were, but
we had, some of our friends were, but most of them weren't. And some of the ones that were religious, instead of giving, were wondering what it was that we had done wrong to put us in this situation to where, we already struggled having children. And then when we finally have a successful pregnancy, or at least seemingly successful, we end up in the hospital for 2.5 months. And they're trying to figure out what we did wrong that God's punishing us. But I like what you're bringing out. I mean, I feel like those people were given to God, and that's not calling us God, but just
it is.
That's
what it's about.
You're doing that service just out of the kindness of their heart. We didn't go around broadcasting our story saying, "Oh, we need money, poor pitiful us." I tried to keep from that because I have a sense of pride when it comes to taking care of our bills and our food and all that. I don't go out and ask for money. I don't know. I just don't. But it just kept coming our way, and I was able to stay there and not work for 2.5 months, and all of our bills were paid.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, if you want to call it a blessing, that's what it was. It sustained us, and our bills were paid, and we were able to survive out of town for that long. And so it was awesome. And that's really, like I said, when my mind just changed completely about that concept of giving.
Yeah, we definitely believe in supporting the ministry, supporting the movement that we're in, and we push for that hard. I mean, because we know that operations like what we're doing right here, they take money. But as far as having one tiny little set amount that comes out of my paycheck, 10% or whatever, on religiously, I'm going to give this to the Lord. That's just not a part of who we are anymore. It's about, if you're for something, you give it. Right. That's the bottom line. You push for that. You give to that. You work for that. You participate. We got some more comments here. President Obama thanks me for my public service, and all the senators that serve at your Chamber of Commerce. Awesome, thanks. Oh, here's one. Leaving only a track when the waitress has a family to feed is lame and selfish. Leaving $1 is the least they could do. They have families to feed and bills to pay.
Yes.
And I need to start asking for money so that you can raise the campaign funds that you need for the next election year.
Well, to go back to your question that you asked, how do you get people to, get out of the mindsets that they have? And goes back to something that it could actually become rather trite, something overstated, but then again, it really is the answer, and that is the name of our program, What Would Love Do? If you truly love someone, that means you care about them, and you want to be kind. You can just put all of the attributes there, all the what would the thing that we define as love, what would that response be? And I like what Paul had to say about that at times. He would talk about preferring one another above yourself. Jesus put it like this: do unto others as you would have them do to you. And these are wonderful sayings, but there's got to be something in us that actually is touched. There's got to be something that it's there. Obviously, it's there. I mean, is not God in each and every one of us? and is not God's love. I mean, you put the two and two together, and I think it's just a matter of tapping into that, recognizing it's there, and participating, because there's nothing that brings more fulfillment than that, and then giving, then sharing of yourself. And of course, it goes, like I said, it goes so far beyond just monies. I think if a person is tight with his money and wants it all for himself, probably it's going to affect the rest of his being too. If he's got something else that he could be sharing, or someone needs help that he could provide, he may or may not be there.
All right.
But really, it boils down to, I think, each one doing his part, contributing what he has to contribute. Obviously there's some that have much more monies than others that could do a whole lot more good financially, just because they know how to earn it, or they've inherited, or whatever it may be. But they can do more financially than others, while others may have much more that they can contribute in other ways. And so it's just an attitude. It goes back to the attitude of giving, of caring, of
Yeah, this, you saying that, this preacher, for him to do something like that, I wouldn't want to put words in his mouth, but what it looks like to me is that he's very proud of it, that 10% that he gives, and his attitude states that I've given enough, I'm proud of what I've given, and I'm going to be showy with that. I'm going to tell you I give 10% of my stuff to God.
Sounds like what we were reading this morning.
What kind of attitude is that? I don't give to look good. I don't give to have a set amount. I give because that's in my nature. That's what I want to do. That's my desire. That's my passion about what I'm involved in, is when I give to that, and especially of finances, like you were saying. If you can give of your finances, or if you're not giving your finances, that really states something about you not really wanting to participate much, probably. I'll participate a little, but I can't give you any money. It shows your attitude. It shows kind of where you are. And we had another comment that said, can a server pay their light bill or electric bill and mortgage with tips less than 18%? I would say no. At a larger restaurant chain that has expensive plates and 18% is a significant amount, you might possibly get by, but you're going to be living pretty cheap. But no, 18% isn't even enough. These people still have to have government help, food stamps or Medicaid or government assistance with their living or paying light bills. 18% is not even enough to, truly live on.
And most servers are not offered health insurance or any other type of retirement. I mean, it's not set up that way typically. So there's a lot of other unexpected bills.
Waiting tables. I'm glad that there is a position of a server, because it really allows those that haven't made it through school or don't have the opportunity to have a job that pays well. It gets them by until they can make it there, right? And it's a very flexible position to work with your situation if you're in school or if you're trying to get back on your feet. And so just as a reminder to all the viewers, remember the server that's waiting on you, and I know everybody goes out to eat, they're there because they really need it. They really need the support, the money. They're struggling. So for that preacher to miss this, it's sad.
Well, I like the idea. I think it's a good subject. It's a good thing to compare because of the fact, that you can go into a restaurant and you can eat your meal and you can pay for it and you can leave. In most cases, I don't know, there may be some cases where you can't. You might can answer that question, but you can leave without leaving any kind of tip. I mean, it's not something that is mandatory. You can leave the restaurant. They won't send the police after you to say you didn't pay your tips.
You might not want to go back to that restaurant, but you can definitely leave without paying.
But people do it all the time, don't they? I mean, you got regular customers there that come in every time and never tip. And they keep coming back and they keep getting waited on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you think, well, maybe we shouldn't just wait on them. You know, you can go tell the cook what you want and see if he'll cook it for you. But, you know, the restaurant's got to make make money too. They've got to have business. But the thing that I like about it is the way it's set up. And like I've already stated, I look at eating out as a luxury. You know, if I'm going to take my wife out to eat or just go out and eat out, whatever, sometimes you can find a good deal and maybe, you know, save money over going home and preparing a meal or eating at the house or whatever. But the thing is, if you can afford to go eat out, you should be able to should first of all be able to pay what you need to pay in order to do it. And that's just part of it. Mm-hmm. And it's the same principle. If you make a certain amount of income and, you know, we know we're going to have to pay tax on it, we shouldn't mind doing that because even though the government may be abusive with our monies and they may be way deeper in debt than we can even imagine, mm-hmm. but we enjoy the benefits of it every day when we drive on the roads, when we do any number of things that are provided through our taxes. Mm-hmm. So when we look at our own income, we have to look at it from the standpoint of, is it enough once I've paid my taxes, you know, right, to pay my bills? Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it won't work. And that's what servers have to do. They are dependent on that. And so therefore, a person should look at it that way when you go out to eat. If you can't tip, don't do it. Mm-hmm. You know, save some money in a jar or something. Yeah. But consider others, you know, and that's just part of it.
Like some ramen noodles or something.
I did have one more comment. I'm not sure I understand it. It says I think the preacher was a woman.
Well, you know, I saw the.
So sexist.
Well, that may be a true statement. Maybe they saw that it was a woman, but I thought maybe it was just a comment against women, and I wasn't quite sure how to take it.
No, I think that may be true, that it actually was a woman. And of course, you know,
okay,
we normally think of a preacher as being a man, but there are women preachers, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But
okay,
that's certainly not a.
They said that literally the preacher was a woman. Okay, I got it. I didn't know that, so I was thinking, what is it about women? Well, I thought they would be more giving than men most of the time.
Yeah.
That actually is a surprise. I mean, generally women are more considerate of those type things because I guess maybe because they were in the position of serving more often than men were. Just I'm glad, you know, that's over, but it is kind of surprising, mm-hmm, because I know my wife is extremely giving, and I wouldn't expect that. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well, while we're on this subject, I think it's a good subject. I think it's a very important one.
They're calling me the sexist now for reading it that way.
She's, you know, everything. What is it? Dr. Jones always says that words have no inherent meaning; they have usage. So, I mean, you know, you got to determine the context. You got to understand the statement. But
you got people agreeing with you, Dad, if they can't afford to eat out. Or, yeah, you can't afford to tip.
As I would say years ago, right on.
Oh, God.
Now, anyway, on the subject of giving, you know, I think all of us, we give to something or other, you know, and unfortunately, probably most of us give more to ourselves than anyone else, you know. We whatever our income is, whatever it'll afford, you know we've got our bills. Any responsible person will, you know, make sure that the rent or the mortgage is covered. You got food in the refrigerator, the light bills paid, the necessities, insurance, whatever a person might consider to be the necessities. Then usually there's at least a little bit of access in most cases. Then you determine what you're going to do with that. Maybe it's just eat out. Maybe it's take a vacation. Maybe it's play golf. Everybody has something to put their money on. But then there's something I think that goes beyond that, and that is you may have a cause that you feel like is worthy of your support. And maybe even someone in your family. And I hear this all the time. As a matter of fact, a case in point, just recently, what was his first name? Armstrong, the guy that...
Lance.
Lance Armstrong, yeah. Wow, I should remember that. So I just went to a funeral with my cousin Lance. Anyway, I was going to bring that up. If I do, I'll do it a little later.
Should have remembered.
Change subjects. But, you hear all this controversy about Lance Armstrong, and maybe he cheated. Apparently he did. He lied.
He did.
He did some bad things, And, but in the meantime, he made a lot of money. And he put a lot of this money to good use. And right or wrong, however you want to judge the man, he's done some good. He gave a large sum, apparently, of his earnings to cancer research. But he had a personal reason for that, very first-hand experience that, motivated him. And I guess it was mostly him. Maybe it was more than that. But, he went through the experience of what a lot of people have gone through. And to me, I look at it like this. He determined if I can prevent anyone else from going through that, then that's what I want to do. He found a cause that he felt like was worthwhile, and he gave to that cause. And to me, that's commendable.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, maybe a loved one is affected by diabetes or whatever. I consider that when I get the things in the mail for the Diabetes Foundation. And, I want them to find some way to either cure it or certainly make it a lot more, livable, where it doesn't affect, the way you live so much. And so, as we determine in life what is a worthy cause, we give to it. We don't pay for it. We give above, just out of the goodness of our hearts, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I find myself. This thing that we've discovered, that we're discovering, and that New Covenant Group is all about. I've been on a quest most of my life, to some degree or another, to determine, what is best, what is good, what is God, who is God, how do we fit into this plan of His or this program of His, whatever you want to call it. And as I've searched for that, I've supported what I believe to be that all my life. And at times I've been well in left field as far as I'm concerned. And many think I'm there right now. It's kind of hard to take, but you take it. You realize, well, this is pretty radical, what we're doing with the Bible and with the God that most people have believed in, including ourselves, But when I look at the potential that we have, that New Covenant Group has, that the teachings of Dr. Jones, for example, how far-reaching, how will lives be affected? What can this do for our world? Not just our town, not just my family, but the world. I consider it something worth whatever I can contribute in whatever way. And it seems like the best way I've been able to contribute is working my business as best I can and put as much as I can into it to keep this thing going forward. Mm-hmm. And, back to the answer to your question, I think people need to see that. They need to see people that are responding out of love, out of caring for others. When you find something that is so wonderful you discover something that just can't be beat, you want to share it, especially if there's enough to go around. Maybe if there's just a little bit, you might get real selfish and say, I'm going to consume it all. But this is something that there's enough for all of us.
Well, you were talking a while ago about plants given to the cancer research. Someone texted in that George Lucas, after he sold all of his production studio and the Star Wars intellectual property, he sold it for billions, and he gave more than he kept to children's education. It's just another example, but just giving to important causes like that, I guess for me, what we're doing here is just as important. You know, cancer is something physical, and that's extremely important to me. I would hate to see a loved one go through that, you know, my wife or myself even. I wouldn't want to suffer through cancer. So if there's a cure, yeah, I would love to participate in that. But what we're doing here deals with mental issues. You know, what people are being fed every day on Sunday morning and Sunday evening and Wednesday nights is mental abuse.
Right.
And, you know, I want to give, you know, like you said, you're just searching for ways that you can push this forward, because it's going to stop the mental abuse. And if we can stop the mental abuse from happening and things start changing up here in the mind, mm-hmm. then we can start focusing more on the physical, because you're not going to have those, like this preacher that's above everybody else and better than everybody else, and you don't deserve this and you don't deserve that. You know, God thinks you're worthless. You are worthless. He just loves you anyway. Just that type of mental abuse is sick. And if we can save the millions or the many from that, then it should, I would think it would change everybody's focus.
It will.
To stop trying to give everything to God, you know, a God that doesn't exist, and start giving it to his people. Start giving it to those around you, the hungry, the sick. You know, then I think our focus would be on the right track if we could stop the mental abuse. And I don't know. That's where my heart is. It's just doing what we're doing right now, just on a journey to stop the mental abuse.
Yeah. Well, I think that once that's settled, you know, once we settle, I don't know, the simplest way I know to put it would be to say that instead of trying to satisfy God, who isn't dissatisfied, mm-hmm. you know, well, I guess the one of my favorite ways to view it is a statement that Jesus made when he told, he was talking about worry. You know, don't worry about tomorrow. You can't really do anything about it. And he followed it up by saying, you know, look at the birds. You know, what do they do to provide for themselves? But then he talked about his Father. He said, you know, your Heavenly Father takes care of them. He feeds them. And he says the same thing about the grass. I mean, to me, I'm hearing something about creation, about how much, you know, the Father enjoys. And that's kind of what Paul talks about in the book of Ephesians. It's just, you know, all this just, it pleases him. He's pleased with it all. And, you know, man, he ended up getting a little sick over all this, somehow or another. I mean, some sickness entered in several different areas. And he came to heal that. But the point that Jesus makes is that how much more are you worth in his eyes? And for some reason, I think most miss that. What is he saying? Is he saying it about the ones that are pleasing him? I don't think so. I don't think anybody really was, you know, in that sense. I mean, they weren't even recognizing who he was in the first place, and they had him made out to be some sort of horrible being. And he comes to him as gently and as kindly and sweetly as possible and says, you know, you're worth so much more than everything else that I made here.
And I had the opportunity just last night to minister that to somebody who was struggling and they were saying that I know my family loves me and they care about me, and but they asked me over so they can pray for me and deliver me and ask me the question, where do you think you're going if you die? You know, because of the state of being that this person was in, just drinking, but not a drunkard or anything, but just drinking. I mean, no real issue there for me. They were just complaining about this, and I looked at them and I said, do you ever get tired of just trying to make God happy? And kind of thought about it for a minute and responded, I get tired of trying to make people happy. I said, don't you feel like that's what you're doing most of the time? You're not really trying to please God. You're trying to look good for everybody else so they'll leave you alone. And the response was, yeah, I kind of get it. I said, God is happy. Why would God have any reason to not be happy? Why would I have any reason to not be happy with my own children or to not be pleased with them? My son could tell me to my face, I hate you, Dad, and I don't want anything else to do with you. And he could move halfway across the world, and I may never see him again. But my love for him is not going to change, and the fact that he's my son is not going to change. So why do we think God should be any different than that, or that I'm a better father than he is? And this person has been extremely religious all their lives and just going through some things that has caused them to kind of get off that track, and they were feeling really bad about it. And I thought, don't feel bad about getting off that track. Feel good about it. It's time to start feeling good about yourself and feeling good about who you are. Don't let people beat you down. Don't let them tell you that you're not worth anything and that, you know, if you were to die right now, you're going to burn. It's sick. When are we going to get about the business of building people up?
Mm-hmm. Well, see, this issue of satisfaction, he actually came to satisfy us. We're the ones that are dissatisfied. You know, if you look at someone that's causing all kinds of misery, that's doing the wrong things, you know, check and see if there's not some dissatisfaction there in their lives. Mm-hmm. They've not discovered yet what it is that satisfies a person. And that's where we started out. Giving, sharing, discovering what it is that you have to give and participating, getting involved. And that's really what's been provided for us, a participation in the divine nature, if you will.
Yeah, I think my response to this person you talked to would just be, you know, how do you feel about yourself? You know, what do you think of yourself? I know for me personally, any time that I've just made a change, it's been because of how my mind is telling me that I want to change. You know, people do affect you, but in the same sense, you know, we have to be happy with who we are. You know, if she's changing for her family, then for one, it's not going to last, and for two, she's going to be miserable because that's not who she wants to be. So
yeah, we got a few more comments here, and I'll go through them, and then we're going to have to end for the day. We're kind of getting short of time. One said that Jesus said, "If you love me, feed my sheep." Mm-hmm. And to me, that could be quoted directly to that pastor. You know, you have to give to them so that they can be fed. You know, they're working for food here. You know, another one, Matthew 25 has nothing to do with who you believe in, but with giving and loving. And if drinking is a damnable sin, then Jesus is going to hell. That's one of the scriptures that I brought up to this person last night. I was like, I thought Jesus turned water into wine. Oh, but it wasn't fermented. Well, apparently they were able to get drunk off of it. So, also, yes, Nicole does emit a blue light everywhere she goes. I'm kidding. She does carry a light about her everywhere she goes. So,
I like that light.
If you love me, tip my senators.
My senators.
unfermented wine is not wine, it's just fruit juice. I agree. Grape juice or whatever.
That used to be one of my, I would get so aggravated when I was religious when I would tell somebody, you're not supposed to drink. And they would say, well, Jesus drank wine. I hated that. It was like, how dare you,
He didn't drink it, he just made it.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like to see that, I guess.
Yeah, there's just nothing you can do with
Yeah.
it. It's like, well, I guess he did, but
Well,
it's still wrong.
well, shut up.
He can go to hell too. Oh, somebody said that the unfermented wine is also not much fun. I'll agree with that as well. I can't drink just fruit juice. I'm diabetic, so I can't have all the sugar unless it's gonna, relax me. Then I'll have a cup of wine, a glass of wine.
Paul told Timothy to drink a little wine for his stomach's sake.
Yeah.
He was a nervous young man. I tell you what, when you're fighting the fight of the faith, it'll unsettle you.
Well, I have a feeling that my next text is going to be wrap it up. So I guess that we will go ahead and do that. I've really enjoyed this conversation today.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the comments. I appreciate that.
Oh, wait, one more comment. I whine all the time. Yeah, I do too. Yeah. So
funny.
anyway, I have really enjoyed this conversation today.
Me too.
I've definitely enjoyed all of the viewer interaction. We appreciate all the comments. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And hope you stay tuned in. We've got some more wonderful shows coming up. So stay with us and join us again next Sunday at 5.
Absolutely. We'll be here.